Good evening, everybody. I've got just past 6 o'clock here. We're going to go ahead and call the open session order. All right. Well, with that being said, we did not have a closed session this evening, so there is no report, and we're going to move directly into the Pledge of Allegiance. If you'd please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, can we get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Logan.
Here.
Councilmember Ackerman.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Douglas. And Mayor Pro Tem Mendoza is out. Mayor Burrs.
Present. All right, we're going to move to approval of the agenda order. Do we have any changes to the agenda order this evening or any additions? Okay. Well, with that being said, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda order.
Move to approve. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion approved. We're going to move to the consent calendar. Items on the consent calendar are considered routine in nature, will be moved on in one blanket motion. If anyone would like to pull an item from the consent calendar, you may do so now. Would anybody from the public or the board like to pull an item from consent? All right, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar.
I move that we approve the consent calendar. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Moving to item 4, agency reports. Starting with Foster Sheriff's Department.
Good morning, Mayor, City Council, Sergeant Kevin Griffiths with the Placer County Sheriff's Office, your station commander here in Colfax. Just to go over with our monthly stats for the month of March, we had 243 total calls for service. 37 reports were written by your deputies. They made 9 arrests. There were 3 traffic accidents within the city. And then 93 deputy initiated calls for service themselves, where they're out there being proactive in your community. Just to go over a couple of things as we're getting ready to ramp up for the summer. This season statewide snowpack is 227% of average, and that was as of March 27th. So what you should see coming from the sheriff's office over the next couple of weeks is some social media messaging about what to do with the water, what to do about around our rivers. It starts to get real hectic out there for our swiftwater team, dealing with people out of the area coming up this way and playing in the water, not realizing. But this year is going to be different. Everybody over the last 5-10 years, we've been dealing with the drought. So where people have been normally swimming, where it's been normally someplace good to go, is going to be extremely cold, extremely fast moving water. I know I was at Station 30 having dinner tonight, and the guys were talking about how they were swimming down at the bridge at Ponderosa, and it was just crazy. Really fast water, really cold. So even if you're a local, be careful when you're around the rivers. Remember that the swiftwater team that I'm on, we wear protective equipment. We have river dry suits. We wear layers of thermals under those. We're still cold in this river. We have our helmets on and our life jackets just to try to keep us safe in there. So people going out and around the river, last year, we lost a person who was just taking a photo next to the river and they fell in. I expect us to lose people this year, and we lose about 3 people on average every year at the confluence. So I do expect that to happen up here. I expect that to happen there. The snow melt, the river is going to be much higher, much more crazy, and we have to be careful. So if you see people going out there, make sure you tell them, stay away. It's going to be cold probably till August is what I'm guessing is going to be the time to get back in. Is there any other questions anybody else has that I can answer?
Anything from the board? All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you.
CHP.
Hi, good evening, Council. Officer Jason Lyman, Global and CHP. Just to initiate what Sergeant Griffiths was saying about the snow melt this year, we're having a lot of melting snow running across the freeways right now. The Caltrans doing all they can to keep those drains opened up, but this warm weather, the snow is really melting fast. All the debris that's in the snow, the pine needles and everything, plugging up all the drains and stuff, and they're actively out there constantly trying to clean that stuff up. But there are places where the water is running across the freeway, and there's potential for hydroplaning or something like that on the freeway. People have a tendency to just not be paying attention, and then all of a sudden they're running into running water across the freeway. There's hasn't been anything that's like deep or anything, but just enough that when you're traveling at freeway speeds, you hit that and people tend to panic and slam on the brakes or swerve to try to get around it. People can lose control and hydroplane. Also, if you're driving next to another vehicle, especially if it's a big rig or something, they run through that and the spray comes up off the water and throws it all across your windshield, and you're blind for a few seconds, but at freeway speeds, a few seconds, you're traveling a long way, especially if you happen to be in a curve or something. And we've had a few accidents that way where people just, sideswipe each other or run off the road before they realize what's going on. So just try to remind everybody to, just keep focused on the road, pay attention. And if you do happen to hit some water, do not slam on the brakes. Try to maintain just steady control of your vehicle, go straight. And usually it's just a few feet of water that goes by and then you're through it and then you can regain control. But anyway, is there any other questions for me?
I had a question.
Yes.
Someday I'd like to see a report similar to the sheriff's on how many people you arrested going over 80 that are passing me when I'm doing 70.
Okay. I can work on that. Anything else?
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Placer County Fire Department, CAL FIRE.
Good evening, Council. Bob Counts, Assistant Chief with CAL FIRE, Placer County Fire Department. Overall, for Placer County Fire Department, we had 939 incidents for the month of March. Station 30, your Colfax engine, had 92 of those responses. And here, Company 36, which is the city of Colfax, had 62 incidents. Our volunteer response was a healthy 20 this month for about a third of the calls, which is up from last month, which is great. The big incident of note was the mudslide that occurred on Ben Taylor Road in March. It originated on a power line access road, slid down, unfortunately impacted and totaled one house. So we had great cooperation and communication with the sheriff's partners in unified command with them. We initiated some evacuations of some surrounding houses because we didn't know what else the land was going to do. And also Russ and his staff are opening up City Hall for any potential evacuations. We had the U.S. Geological Society out the next day, surveying, doing all they could to tell us what was going to happen next. And I don't think it's moved anymore since then. So that was the big incident of note. We're getting ready to hire our first round of seasonal staff here on April 17th. And that'll put CAL FIRE unit at 1 engine per battalion. It really doesn't affect us locally here in Placer County because we keep all of our CAL FIRE stations open year round with the exception of Forest Hill Station. We're expecting full staffing for CAL FIRE in mid-June. We're also preparing for our annual crew exercise that'll be happening the 25th and 26th of April. That's the exercise where we test out our hand crews and we certify them for every summer. This year we have hand crews coming in from Mendocino, Shasta, Nevada, Yuba, and we're certifying 11 crews over a 2-day period. So that's coming up. And lastly, this week is Public Safety Telecommunications Week. If you know a dispatcher, if you happen to talk to one this week, make sure you thank them for your service. We couldn't do our jobs without, the 911 operators on the other end handling their business. So if that's all, I can answer any questions that anybody might have.
Any questions?
Yeah.
Was there a small incident today, like around 2-ish? I saw a spotter plane and like just some smoke. It wasn't a lot of smoke, but I was curious because I saw the spotter plane.
So there isn't any current incidents today. What you're seeing, and it's going to be happening over the next few weeks, as our air tanker pilots and our spotter planes are doing their annual training. So they come out of McLaren. They've got a couple of different training locations. There's one is in Nevada County, over in the Georgetown area, and they also fly over our area. So they're just doing their annual certifications. We're doing some water dropping over in Nevada County. They may circle over, and you might see them over our airspace as well. So they're just doing their annual training.
The smoke, maybe it was someone running, but it was like between the bridge and Highway 8 in that area.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, nonprofits. Foxy, you got a report for us?
Foxy McCleary, 127 Sanders Lane. I'm with the Lions, and we're going to continue our cruise and art walk again this year. The Lions will have a cruise on May 19th, I think it is, from the hours are from 4 to 7, and it's always the third Friday of the month. And we'll start out with a cruise in May. But then the artists will join us. And by the way, I want to tell all the artists out there, we are not charging anybody to show up at all. So here's your chance to make up for 3 years of whatever we've been going through. But the dates are June 16th, July 21st, August 18th, and September 15th, 4 to 7. The artists should show up at least by 3 o'clock. And I'm hoping I still have some really nice music from Dutch Flat coming. And then I'll insert too that the VFW has their breakfasts every second Sunday of the month. And the Legion has their dinners every third Thursday of the month. Please check the chamber. They've been doing a very nice job of posting a lot of the events in town. So please check your chamber calendar. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anybody from the chamber here this evening to give a report? How about you, Kim? You think you can give a report for the chamber?
This is very unofficial for the chamber because nobody asked me to say anything, but I was at a chamber meeting a few days ago, and we're going to be having an opening. The boutique is opening up. We have a soft opening right now. The person that has a thrift store, Sunny Boutique is the name. Sunny Rose. Thank you. And so they're having an opening, I think, in about a week or two. So I'll try to get an official spokesman, but that's all I know right now. Thank you.
Thanks, Kim. Do we have any other nonprofits here this evening? All right, seeing none, we will go ahead and move to item 5, which is our presentations. We're going to start with the local control accountability plan for Colfax Elementary School District.
Good evening, council. Good evening, families. I'm Andy Giannini. I'm the superintendent of Colfax Elementary School District. And I wanted to take a few moments to just share our local control accountability plan. Our local control accountability plan is basically our district goal. It's a 3-year plan, and every year we review and revise the plan. Part of that process is going to different interest groups. So I've already gone to our school staff, our student council, some of our parents, and I'm here in front of you as a city council to get feedback on our plan. We're always looking back at data to plan ahead in the future to improve programs and services with the ultimate goal to improve the learning and the outcomes for our students. You can go ahead and you can move to the next slide. So I've shortened this down because I'm a merciful person from about 120 pages for this 3-page summary. Basically, these are our goals that appear in the top corner. This is our first goal. And then we have our actions that are in the plan attached to that goal. These are the metrics we're using to monitor the goal. And then here are our results currently, and here are how we are progressing in regards to our actions. So the very first goal has to do with student achievement, which all school districts, that should be your number one goal. And your number one purpose is to have your students achieve. So our goal is to improve student achievement by 10% in English language arts and math each year annually. And how we're measuring that is we're looking at our I-Ready assessments, which are assessments that are locally purchased assessments we use within our district. Our students do those at least once a trimester. And then we also use our state assessments, which is the CASP assessments. That's going to be starting for our school in the next couple of weeks. All students 3rd through 8th grade take those tests annually. So the actions that we are using to improve our academic performance that are written into the LCAP are the use of the diagnostic assessments, increasing staffing and support systems to increase student learning on campus, providing professional development for quality first instruction, and then also providing professional development for differentiated instruction. So that's when we recognize the students learn at different paces at different times. So really pulling groups of students to reteach students when necessary, or give students enrichment opportunities when they need to. So that's differentiated instruction. And then continuing to develop a comprehensive writing program and having more student interventions on campus during the school day. So we, right now, this year, we continue to add to our staffing by adding a reading specialist. She's been working at our school, but we continue to fund her to work at our school. We also started an intervention block during the school day for 3 days a week where we stop new instruction and we basically have a timeout. And we have students go into small groups based on their ability to do what I said, like reteach. It's never good to teach a concept and a student doesn't get the concept and then just keep moving, because then students get behind. So we're really looking at that time as an opportunity to say, hey, we know you didn't get it the first time. We're gonna work with you again so you can get it a second time. We also we rejuvenated our Sight Buster program. This is a volunteer program. Parents come in daily, work with our primary age students to work on sight words, high frequency words to help with their fluency. We also have continued to reduce our class sizes, which currently are 19 students to 1 throughout the school. And we are also providing differentiated instruction. We separated our administrative positions this year into a superintendent and a principal position to provide more support for our staff and our students, but also more support for our district as a whole. And then we also increased additional staffing for reading support by adding a 0.5 paraprofessional. We're coordinating special education better with the intervention program, and we implemented an 8th grade credit recovery program. So these are things we've done this year to help with that academic goal. Our second goal is to create opportunities for a broader course of study, particularly in the area of the arts and the sciences. Written into the LCAP, we had last year, not this year, but we funded additionally for a teacher of special assignment to work with our teachers to implement a newly adopted science curriculum. We also are looking to work as much as possible with the high school next door to provide more opportunities for our students. And like I said, we did adopt a new science curriculum this year, and it was piloted last year. Our metric is we use a parent survey to kind of judge how we're doing with that enrichment and how we're doing at providing a broader course of study. Our baseline was 75% of parents agreeing that we did provide a broader course of study. That went up to 89% last year, and we haven't gotten the results yet this year on our parent survey. What we've done to provide broader course is we work with our middle school staff to really develop an enrichment wheel. So giving students an opportunity for 45 minutes at the end of the day to pick an opportunity for learning. Sometimes that's geography, sometimes that's technology or engineering or those kinds of focuses based on their interests. We also have a lot of after school clubs that we started in the spring or started in the fall and carried into the spring. These clubs included art and design, graphic design, drama, chess, and those kinds of things. We worked to fund a part-time visual and performing arts teacher that started with us earlier this year, and she teaches students from grades 3rd through 8th grade. And then we were trying to work with our high school to put together a math class that didn't come to fruition, but we're going to really get it off the ground next year. And then we contracted with a local company for underground science. An independent person comes in and teaches hands-on science lessons to our students once a month. So if you wouldn't mind going to the final slide, our last goal is creating a more safe and welcoming, connected learning environment for our students, including all of our student groups on campus. This includes a lot of additional behavior supports, the creation of a safety team to really look at our practices for drills and for also just overall campus safety, and then implementing attendance improvement program. That's been a real challenge at schools. Ever since coming back from COVID, attendance has across the nation has not been what it was prior to COVID. And then we have improved our student and staff social emotional health and wellness. And we're continuing to just improve our facilities as a whole, looking at how we can provide better HVAC systems. This summer, we're looking to bring in a new carpeting and linoleum and things like that so that the learning environment is a really great learning environment for our kids. These are the actions that we've done up to date. Some of the highlights, I won't go through all of them, but this is an example. The Big Brothers and Sisters is an example of partnering with the high school. We have high school students come over, work with some of our younger kids, and that kind of like as a mentorship capacity. We also we have improved the facilities with new planter boxes, siding, HVAC, kindergarten, playground, elevator repair. We're making phone calls to families to really help support and reach out to help them, help getting their students to school. We've done a lot of what's called positive behavior intervention and support training. One of our teachers created a builders club. They connected with the Kiwanis in our community, and they're doing really great community projects. So this is just kind of an example of some of the things that support that goal also. So really, I'm here to answer any questions, but then also, if you wouldn't mind, are there more slides here? Really to ask the question for, if you wouldn't mind going down one more, getting feedback to really focus on identified needs that you feel as a community we could be considering, and then also ways we can improve our services for our students. Do you guys have any questions?
I just wanted to point out, I just absolutely adore how much work you guys have put in such a short period of time to really make the school well-rounded for the kids.
Mm-hmm.
It's had a very noticeable difference, in my opinion. Not just as a community member, but as a parent with multiple children in the school. And, I'd love to see the continued building on the sports programs, because I think those are just so important. And one of the suggestions I had heard that I wanted to make sure that I shared before it left my mind was, there's always that hard point of trying to get kids to sign up for sports. I'd love to know what the barriers are to kids participating.
Okay.
If it's a financial issue, if it's a time issue, or if it's just a lack of interest.
Mm-hmm.
If it is lack of interest, I hope you guys are considering, possible PE credit and then letting the kids do TA work with other teachers. I know poor Mr. Elias can use all the help he can get right now. But, if there are the monetary type issues, we have partnered in the past with our nonprofits and made it a priority to, inject what we feel is valuable back into the community. And when we're going over our annual budget process, I think funding programs that specifically help our youth, or at least connecting, because we have that ability as a hub central to the community to help connect with, other clubs that provide funding. I'd love to have that come up during our budget cycle so that we can try to help find solutions to help keep not just sports, honestly, any extracurriculars that are available where that might be a barrier.
Okay. That's good input. Thank you.
What about everybody else?
Go ahead. Yeah, I applaud the whole approach, and I would love to see some budget for musical instruments.
Okay,
When my daughter went to the school, I would buy instruments for anybody that wanted to try a musical instrument.
yeah,
So I would like to see that started, or maybe matching funds, some kind of a program to get people thinking, let's buy an instrument for a child.
okay, all right.
David, Sean, did you guys have anything?
Just reiterate what Trinity said, just appreciate so much what you've been doing. The new staff, you guys have been great. Everything's looking up. So sure our enrollment's going to go way up once they find out how great Colfax is again.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh. Yep, you're welcome.
How about the community? Do we have anybody in the audience that's got any comments, questions, any input? Anything online? All right. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking the time and effort to come to our meetings on a regular basis. It means a lot.
Yeah, it's my pleasure, and thank you very much for your feedback, and thank you for the time.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right. Well, up next we have for item 5B, the annual, and I apologize, I'm always terrible at pronouncing the name of this board. Otis, would you mind pronouncing the name of the board for me properly? Bianchini? Bianchini. You know, they always tell me, and then I swear an hour later, I'm set to mess it up again.
Thanks very much, Council. Otis Wallen. I'm the treasurer at Sierra Vista, and this is the annual report that we present to the council on the activities of the Bianchini Fund. As you know, we have a joint committee where all of these expenditures go through the committee. You appoint a couple folks on the committee. Foxy is one of the appointees for the Sierra Vista. And so annually we give a report on what it is that's transpired. So if you start from the bottom, basically year-end balances in this last December 31, there was $442,000 in the fund. We basically lost $60,000 last year in the investments, which are of course most in the stock market. We're invested in long-term, high yield funds, and those are very generally very stable. If you take a look at the previous year, we made $67,000. So, you know, the stock market is very volatile. We don't play the market. You know, that's just not what we do. So we're in these long-term, one bond fund and two stock funds that are high yield, very stable companies. So basically, in 2020, there was $436,000 in the fund. Today, there's $442,000 in the fund. And so I would say that the funds have performed as well as we could ask for during this particular time of high volatility in the markets. We have a yield every year from Schwab, and you see it in 2021. It was 10,008, and now it's this year is 11,006. And the Bianchini committee has agreed to. We are in our agreement. We can use those earnings, and we use those earnings to pay for fire insurance. Our fire insurance went from $3,500 to $16,000. We don't know what's going to happen with those in the future. We're told that they will raise. This very likely there will be more fires in California, and that fund is a pool of people in the wildland urban interface area, because basically major companies will not provide us with insurance. We did get other quotes. One of the quotes was what, $36,000 for annual insurance. So CalFair is the program that we're part of, And these funds, the earnings all go to help knock down the insurance. We also have, I'm sure Kim will remember, a couple of years ago, the Bikini Committee set aside about $100,000 in cash so that basically we can support the other asset, which is basically the facility itself. If we lose the facility, we're all in a lot of deep water. So the criteria that was established is if there was a project that would have to do with safety or legality or the structural integrity of the asset, then we can allocate some of those funds and fix that. So we are in the process of replacing all the windows, and you have $4,000 spent on the windows. We're also working, of course, on the roof. That's a long-term project for us, although there will be some significant expenditures in the next year or two. So that was 12,000 for a total of 16,000 spent. So there was 11,000 allocated, 16,000 spent, and the remaining balance is $442,000. So that's where we are as of this moment, and we'll bring another report annually, and we'll have probably a bikini meeting sometime in the summer, where we'll take the next step, both from earnings and from the allocations that will support the structure. So, questions? I'd be happy to respond.
Yeah, I just had a couple questions. So you said there was an annual meeting to go over all of this. When was that?
Bikini meeting was last year. I mean, we have basically one meeting a year. This is a fairly simple set of allocations.
Okay.
So,
I believe our current representative for that is Marnie. Was she present at that meeting?
yeah.
Okay. So just so I understand correctly, with the dividends from Schwab, my understanding is that is what you're using to cover the fire insurance, and you said the fire insurance alone is 16,000.
That's what the 2022 earnings are 11,006, and we'll be asking the Bikini Committee to again allocate that or approve the allocation towards the insurance.
Okay, so the insurance alone is 16,000, and then the repairs separately are another 16,000.
Yeah.
Okay, so that 32,000, is that before or after our 2022 numbers here?
We're still in the fund, and the dollars spent were the actual expenditures last calendar year.
Okay, so the year-end balances include the first 16,000 deduction for expenditures. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Anyone else have any other questions?
I had a question. This may not be the best time to ask this type of question, but what's the future of rentals? I know we lost some renters there. We lost one renter and we gained one renter, and it's steady state right now. There are 3 rooms upstairs that need to be basically rehabilitated, and then we can go on the market with those rooms. So we have possibilities for growth, but the growth includes the expenses and whatnot. So we're inventorying what needs to be done. HVAC is one of the big expenditures in that. So we're making what I think is steady progress, and it's sort of on an even keel. The biggest surprise in the last couple of years have been the fire insurance.
Do the profits from rentals and different programs help offset that 16,000, or where do those funds go?
It will end up raising rates. We have very low rates comparatively, and so we'll just have to raise the rates on the rentals. And the idea is, of course, to get full rental of the 3 rooms that are now vacant, but that again is an expenditure before you can put that into a revenue stream.
So for that revenue stream, I don't see it listed on the sheet. I'm sorry to nitpick it. So is that included in the 2022 balance or not?
No, what you're talking about there is the profit and loss of the nonprofit business.
Right,
And this is a report on the annual report on the fund.
right.
So when you look at the fund, when you look at it from Sierra Vista's point of view, basically, the only thing that it's the 11,000 in income, which shows really on our books as ordinary income or ordinary expense.
So I understand that. I guess the part that I'm questioning is whether or not the actual business income from the nonprofit is used towards the actual maintenance of the facility, whether it be through fire insurance or the,
Yeah, I think it'd be useful if we sat down and looked at the books. I mean, basically, it's roughly $85,000 of income and $80,000 of expenses to run the operation. And we get earnings of $11,000 here.
Right. So what I'm asking, are those two things completely partitioned? The business revenues and losses from the nonprofit, are they partitioned from the Bianchini fund?
No, the only activities from the Bianchini Fund are the direct expenses, which are listed here. And there will be a $11,617 check that will basically transfer to Sierra Vista to offset the insurance or to offset the fire insurance. That's what happens from the fund.
Right.
What you have here is everything, every individual check was written out of the fund.
So I'll probably follow up with you on this later.
But
essentially,
we have a profit and loss. We run a business. So,
and that's really my question is, I understand the purpose of the fund, and this is basically your capital reserves. And so I'm questioning if there is an active business, if there are revenues and losses, are those being calculated first before dipping into your capital reserves? And that's the root of the question. So
of course,
I understand that $16,000 from the fund is being requested for fire insurance when there was $11,000 in profit from the Schwab year-end earnings statement. And the question behind that really comes down to, is there a subsidy coming from the business end that is picking up any part of that tab to keep you from being able to dip into your capital reserves?
of course, we're running at about $80,000.
Okay.
If the criteria for expenditures from the fund, if that $16,000 were not spent,
right,
we would have lost $16,000.
Okay. I think I'll probably follow up with you later on.
Yeah, sure. Looking at profit, understanding the profit and loss is from the business is the way to understand what's actually happening at the business. This is simply a report on the fund.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you. Do you guys have any questions?
Yeah.
Any public comments or questions? Awesome, thank you.
Thanks so much.
All right, with that, we're going to move to item 5C, and this is the SB 1383 jurisdiction procurement. For this particular presentation, I'm actually going to recuse myself, and I'm going to pass the gavel over to Kim Douglas. I'm recusing myself because I directly work for PG&E and because I directly manage wholesale generation for PG&E. So it is a direct conflict. Thank you.
Kirsten, thank you for coming tonight and presenting this item at the request of all the jurisdictions that sit on the Pioneer Energy Board. There tonight, Kirsten's going to introduce the opportunity we have to meet our procurement requirements set by SB 1383, and I won't go any further into that and steal your thunder. So go ahead and go.
Thank you. Kirsten Kolficki with Pioneer Community Energy. And first of all, I just want to thank you guys for the opportunity to be able to present this information to you. And Pioneer Community Energy is really looking forward to this opportunity to partner with our local jurisdictions in an attempt to provide an opportunity or a means to address this state mandate that has come forward. Next slide, please. So tonight, what we're going to talk about rather quickly, SB 1383, as it relates to the organic waste procurement requirement that comes from CalRecycle's regulations. Talk about how the procurement of biomass attributes might actually satisfy that requirement. Talk about Pioneer's role in this proposal, and talk about specifically Colfax's estimated targets and costs per year for this proposal. A cost comparison with biomass attributes with compost as an alternative, potential legal fees, and then considerations that the jurisdiction may want to consider. Next slide. So starting January 1, 2022, local jurisdictions were required to procure an annual target of organic waste products, and jurisdictions starting in 2023 are supposed to procure 30% of that target. The following year it moves up to 65%. And by 2025, jurisdictions are supposed to be procuring 100% of their target. And that target is based upon a jurisdiction's population and then multiplied by a factor of 0.08. There are 4 different types of ways that jurisdictions can procure this organic product that comply. The first is compost. The second is mulch. The third is renewable energy from anaerobic digestion. And lastly, what we're going to talk about tonight is electricity produced from biomass compliant feedstock. Next slide. So Greenleaf Power Company is located in Riverside County. They are approximately 45 megawatt facility, and they are offering to sell SB 1383 biomass compliant material from local transfer stations that are sent to Greenleaf, and then they are using that diverted from landfill urban wood waste to power their biomass facility. Now, Greenleaf itself is not offering to sell the biomass power itself. They already have a contract for their power, but what they're willing to sell is the compliant feedstock that they're going to use to create the energy, so the diversion that the state is seeking. And so jurisdictions would be able to procure this attribute, and at the end of it, that jurisdictions would have sort of a certificate of compliance in order to comply with this procurement requirement. Greenleaf is selling 1 ton of this biomass attribute at $32.50 a ton. Next slide. So Pioneer sort of sees itself in this role as the ability to facilitate this negotiation and negotiate the contract. We hope that there will be some benefits to that. Pioneer itself will not be a party to the contract. The contract would be between the jurisdictions and Greenleaf Power. However, what we've offered to do is do the research and the legwork for jurisdictions and provide this option to have it available to our jurisdictions. And negotiate, take first crack at and negotiate the contract that we've gotten from Greenleaf Power, so that hopefully jurisdictions could also obtain an economies of scale rather than having to negotiate each contract through each jurisdiction. That would already be negotiated. Next slide. So the slide, I'll just walk you through this briefly, but starting in the upper left-hand corner, that shows your approximate 2022 energy usage with Pioneer Community Energy. And the reason why that's valuable is that CalRecycle is saying that you're limited into how much biomass attribute you can actually procure based upon your energy usage of your municipality. So you cannot procure more biomass attributes than your usage of energy. And this is 2022 energy usage. CalRecycle is recommending using 2023 data for 2023 and so forth, which it shouldn't be an issue ever for Colfax. But your target for 2023 is 52 tons, either of compost, mulch, or biomass attribute. And again, Greenleaf is offering to sell it at $32.50 for a total cost of $1,697 for Colfax for 2023. Next slide. So this is the same slide, except now we've moved into 2024. The target increases from 30% to 65% for 113 tons. And the total cost would be $3,676. Next slide. Lastly, 2025 and ongoing, it's 100% of the target. So that brings Colfax to 174 tons at $5,655. Next slide. So the cost comparison, really, how does this compare to having the jurisdiction procure 52 tons of compost in 2023? So on the left-hand side is what it would cost for Greenleaf to sell their biomass attributes to Colfax. Again, they're offering this for $32.50 a ton. Colfax's estimated target for 2023 is 52 tons, which would cost Colfax an estimated $1,690. Pioneer is also, in order to make sure that ratepayers wouldn't be footing the bill for any of this, is having our general counsel look at negotiating the contract. They're estimating a low of $10,000 total and a high of $25,000, which would be divided amongst the jurisdictions that choose to participate in this program. So on the right-hand side, you have an estimate for compost. We contacted Western Placer Waste Management Authority, and we were quoted $21 a ton for SB 1383 compliant compost. Obviously, if Colfax is a member agency, then potentially there would be an opportunity for an additional discount. We multiplied the $21 by your 52 ton target, which is a total of $1,092. But then that is just for the material, the compost itself. That doesn't include actually delivering the compost somewhere. So we got a trucking estimate at $300 a trip with a 24 ton truck, which is 12 miles between Rockland's facilities, but for Colfax, that's actually $39. 39 miles. So the delivery may actually be more for you guys. It would take 3 trips to haul 52 tons at $300 a trip for a total of $900. That brings the total cost for compost at roughly $1,992. So in addition to that, and I think the cost estimate is fairly comparable to both sides. In addition to that, Colfax would probably be required to enter into 2 more contracts on the compost side, because they will also have to enter into a contract with WAPMA for the compost itself and with the trucking company for that. And in addition to that, Colfax would need to figure out what they're going to do with 52 tons of compost. Would it be delivered to multiple locations, which may involve additional costs? Would staff be required to monitor a compost pile so that it didn't create additional problems, potential fire? And again, there's also a question of the quality of the material. Since it's organic product, it's not exactly going to be equivalent to like a Lowe's or Home Depot compost. So where you would want to use it, you would need to figure out. Next slide. Just briefly, this is the estimated legal fees if all the jurisdictions participated, from a low of $1,000 to a high of $2,500 a jurisdiction if all of our jurisdictions participated in this program. Next slide. So some of the considerations that you'll want to think about is, again, Greenleaf has acknowledged to us that this isn't the solution for everybody. The price of compost and mulch vary considerably. And so the estimate that I provided for you guys is literally just an estimate. So you guys may want to do your due diligence and make sure that you're going to get the best solution for your jurisdiction. Greenleaf is proposing a contract of 5 years. And beginning January 1, 2027, the jurisdiction's procurement targets are going to be adjusted, but that's going to be based upon your population. So that may or may not go up or down based upon the jurisdiction's population. And if jurisdictions have been a recipient of SB 1383 grant money, that grant money can be used to procure the biomass attribute. Lastly, as the most recent time that we've spoken to Greenleaf, they have not entered into a contract with any jurisdiction yet, but we do want to bring this to the attention of our jurisdictions to consider promptly, because they have been in conversations with jurisdictions that are large enough that would account for all of their attributes if they were to sign a single contract. So that is the information that we have provided to our folks in order to consider that. And again, we're in the process of negotiating a contract. That's not to say that as local jurisdictions, you couldn't have particular provisions in that contract. We just want to try and streamline the process to the maximum extent possible.
Well, thank you for your presentation. Does anybody on council have any questions about SB 1383.
Yes, thank you. Just a couple of quick questions that jumped out. The total estimated cost would be about 1,600 plus the 3 loads, right? So actually about 2,500, not 1,900, correct? I just want to make sure we're on the same page.
It was, sorry, let me just pull up that slide again. I think that's slide 9.
And then while you're pulling that up, the other question is on the legal fees. I noticed everything else is proportionate kind of to population, but the legal fees weren't. Any way to make that also proportional or?
So on the legal fees, that's an easy one. Originally, that was one of the suggestions to either do it, divided equally or to do it proportionally based upon the total amount of procurement. However, at the end of the day, in terms of negotiating the contract, it's not any more work for general counsel to negotiate a contract for jurisdictions that's procuring 52 tons of it versus a jurisdictions that is procuring 1,961 tons. That doesn't result in extra work. So it was a thought process, and it's not to say that that's necessarily out of the question, but I think most of the jurisdictions at the board meeting thought that just an equal division in terms of the legal fees made more sense. And in terms of the cost, so it was the second line, it says $1,092 was the cost just for the material in and of itself. And then there was additional $900 for the haul, for the transportation for $1,992 total.
You guys looking at wrong. I thought the cost of the 52 times was $1,690 and then transportation was like $900. Maybe I'm reading it wrong. I apologize.
The $1,690 on the left side is for the attribute, sorry. So the attribute is the left side, and that is $32.50 a ton. We did $32.50 times 52 for $1,690. On the right side, we took $21 a ton, which is what Wapma is selling their 1383 compliant compost at, multiplied that by your 52 tons for a total of $1,092. Plus we add the $900 transportation onto that, and that's the $1,992. Yeah.
I see several former mayors. Anybody from the public like to make a comment on SB 1383?
Thank you very much.
Kim, if I may, I'd like to build on Kirsten's, you had to sit down. So some of the challenges we have in this jurisdiction is the hard conversation I've been having with Cal Recycle is this requirement for the procurement, especially for jurisdictions in the highest fire severity area. I mean, what do you do with 52 tons of mulch? I mean, we're trying to go through a FEMA grant right now to encourage people to remove that type of material from around their homes as it is. So I was pleased to see that this option actually came available. I mean, it's nobody likes the fact that we're being forced to do this, but this is a way for us to actually check the box, get the credits we need so we can stay in compliance, because at the end of the day, Cal Recycle has the right and the authority to start finding the jurisdictions anywhere between $500 to $10,000 a day for not meeting the targets and the goals on the back end of it. So it seems like it's the most logical way of moving forward. We do have that Cal Recycle grant. We have the $20,000. We originally earmarked it for other uses that won't apply for us. And I've spoken with Cal Recycle, and they're agreeable to us amending that grant form to comply with this procurement side of it. So the 5-year agreement most of it would be paid by the grant if we were to do that moving forward. So that's not a cost to the citizens here. That's actually getting the citizens' tax dollars that were paid to the state brought back to them here for benefit to them.
How much of a fire hazard is mulch?
I'll let the fire individual speak more specifically. Bob, if you want to.
Yeah, it's absolutely a fire hazard. The problem with mulch is very good. That's awesome. We're being forced to, that's good. Yeah.
We could sell it.
There's also compost, but now you use compost and the quality that you're going to get from the material from the compost, it's really still just mulch. It's not real compost. And now you're using compost to encourage the growth of vegetation again. Now you're adding ladder fuels which is the same challenge as the compost or the mulch itself at the end of the day for the community.
If there's no more questions, we will call Trinity back to the dais and move on to public comment.
So, Madam Mayor, as you're coming down, I'd like the opportunity. I don't know if everybody's met Don Eckert. He's the executive director for Pioneer Energy. I don't know if you want to come up and introduce yourself for a quick moment. Sorry to put you on the spot there, Don.
No worries. No, thanks for having us today, and appreciate Russ on our board and his leadership for us, and nice to meet y'all. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Tim, for taking over, and thank you guys for the presentation. All right, we don't have any public hearings today, so we are moving directly to public comment. Do we have any public comment? And it's not on the agenda. Correct.
Good evening. Always a pleasure to be here at the meeting. It's been a long time since I've attended a meeting. I have just a couple of little notes here that I want to go over. I was going to say something when Kim was talking about Chamber of Commerce. I want to talk about the yoga studio that just opened here in town. It's in the Freight Depot building, in the old TAPS building. So old timers will refer to it as. I've been going to their yoga classes, and it's, you know, it's targeted for us geriatrics. It's very mellow, and you should, you know, look it up and give it a try. During Wes's update, I'd like for him to go over the old hotel, any movement on that. That's always been a sore spot. I moved here in 1980, and there it sits. And we've had several owners over the years, and I think it's important for the city to, I don't want to say keep the pressure on, but, you know, just do what we can to keep that moving forward. It's been a long time coming, and I'd like to see some progress on it. They were working on it last year, and now, you know, here it sits again for months. And I understand that this is really a bad time for construction. Everybody's busy. I mean, I'm even laying brick again. I mean, that's how bad it is or good it is. You just can't find help, and materials are outrageous. But still, let's put some pressure or help them move that forward. You know, driving through town, I drive by here and I see the marquee on it at the theater. And that is so cool. You know, I mean, that really lights up the town. And I just want to give a shout out to the theater for leaving that on, even though they have nothing going on. It really, it shows something's going to happen there. And I think it's important to acknowledge that, you know, they're helping our community just by having those lights on. My next item is the meetings used to be on the local TV channel, and I'd like to see that return. If we could, you know, do something about that, I enjoy watching it on TV. And it's really tough with the Zoom and everything. And you'll probably be seeing more of me coming to, you know, to meetings now. But I think it's important to have that on the local public access channel. And my last thing is potholes. I like potholes. They slow everybody down. I know when about 20 years ago, we fixed a stretch of road here, and everybody on the road, not everybody, but people on the road were complaining everybody's speeding. And I know, looking at Culver Street now, that's got fixed 2-3 years ago, and it's a racetrack. I mean, people are going 30, 40 miles an hour on that. And if we had potholes there, it would slow everybody down. And I know people were saying, well, can we put speed bumps in? And it's like, well, why did we fix the potholes? The speed bump is just an upside down pothole. You know, let's use the money elsewhere. So anyway, that's all I got. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, back to the public comment.
Oh, there we go.
Good evening. So just real quick, in Nevada County, you pay to dump your green waste at the dump. And then they, in return, burn it for their power. So I don't know what the whole getting charged for refuse is when it's an actual commodity. Other than that, someone is posting a delivery service, and on our Yelp page of our camp, you know, when people do a Yelp review and they're posting their phone number and their delivery options. So I actually called the guy, and they did it to a bunch of dispensaries all throughout the state, and got someone on the phone. They were willing to deliver eighths, quarters, half pounds, whatever I wanted in Grass Valley. I just discontinued the conversation with the guy, but there's really no public agency that's responsible for that type of crime or whatever it is. Not a crime, but the only way to combat that was to take away the illegal market from the people that are involved in it. And the intent behind the AUMA, in part, was to combat the illegal market by creating a regulatory structure to govern California's commercial cannabis activity, prevent access to minors, and protect public safety, public health, and the environment. So when they drafted all that, the public safety issue that you guys are always talking about, they had that in mind, and that's pretty much covered it. But when you don't follow what the state does, the public safety doesn't come along with it. So just trying to, you know, get the fact that I know there's the whole local control thing, but you have to think about the whole state and what's happening in the state as opposed to just what's happening locally. The illegal market are the enemy of our state, enemy of me, and maybe not the police or anybody here, but it's the enemy. And anything we can do to combat them is probably in the best interest of public safety. And finally, there is a deadline for a grant money for cannabis retailers to get grant funding from the state. And if you go on the website, it has a bunch of stats for people to look at. And Placer County, by the way, with one dispensary, has sold 27,000 pounds of cannabis. This is from the BCC's website. So we are the biggest cannabis seller in the state as far as a medical only. So, you know, you guys have to understand that you guys are more helpful than the state is. Okay. So there's going to be an influx of people trying to look at these numbers and go, wow, that's where we need to go, because 27,000 pounds, and you look at all the other numbers, Nevada County only had 1,500 pounds with 5 dispensaries, it says. So these stats aren't real. They're misleading. So don't go by those if you're trying to go by that. And
I was going to say, is that sales within the zip code, or is that sales?
It's retail sales from dispensaries.
So that could be any sale that was transacted within the zip code, correct?
Well, in here it's one. They have the number of dispensaries.
Mm-hmm.
And they have the pounds they sold. So like in Nevada County, 5 dispensaries, 1,500 pounds. In Placer County, there was 1 dispensary, 27,775 pounds.
Is that on the Bureau of Cannabis Control website?
It's on their Cannabis Local Jurisdiction Retail Access Grant website. Huh? Yeah. Yeah, that's way more than we've ever sold. So we were the only promoting, you know, really storefront that people can walk in and visit, supposedly, but every smoke shop sells cannabis products. They have THC, everything, and they don't include those sales in any of this stuff. That's all tobacco money. So just a heads up. That's all.
Thank you. Do we have any other public comment online or in person?
Nothing online.
All right. Well, with that, we'll go ahead and close public comment. And we will move on to council and staff reports, starting with Sean.
It's been a quiet month. I got nothing to report.
Perfect. Tim?
At Project Go, it's either LIHEAP or HEAP, Energy Assistance Program for Low Income. There are still funds available free. You don't have to pay it back, no interest, absolutely free. So people should apply. The money is there, and there's at least one family that has taken advantage of that. Again, no payback is necessary. So call either the city or call Pioneer or Project Go and make a contact. At the Chamber of Commerce meeting a few days ago, we talked briefly about the article that was in this magazine about the rise and fall of the malls, like Sunrise Mall. Well, we don't have that problem here in Colfax, but there's some good advice in here on how we can, rebrand ourselves. And they did mention the money that the city has that's going to go towards Main Street and beautifying Main Street. So indirectly, this article did help us to discuss how the city's helping Main Street in the chamber. I think that's it. Thank you.
Nothing to report.
Okay. I wanted to follow up on a couple of things. I really appreciate your comment about the theater and the marquee, and it sparked another thing I'd been meaning to follow up. Can we try to connect the theater owners and the school, because they've had all the work they've done with the repertory theater? I want to see if we can possibly make the theater available to the school if at some point they want to use that facility. And then additionally, I'd like to find a time to offer the city council chambers to the school's council. So if they want to have one of their meetings here, I think that would be really awesome if they wanted to do a walking field trip. Wes, I know the Wave broadband, the TV for the meetings, it's a lot of extra work, but really how much extra work is it?
It was originally, we had a program called Boxcast here, was that interconnected it. And then when we went to the virtual online and added all the other forms, we had to disconnect that piece of it because there's a missing link. I can get a quote to see how much it would cost to kind of interface all that in there as well too, but it will be additional costs. I mean, we're currently spending more monies to get in compliance with the visual aids and stuff. We got a new computer that needs to be attached to that whole piece up there, but
If broadband do it, can they live broadcast to stream?
it's interconnecting our broadcast from here to the stream that's upstairs next to the server. So we got to run some cabling or whatever else to interface it, and I get a proposal to do that.
I'm wondering if someone from Wave could take care of that.
They will not take care of anything out beyond their junction box.
Gotcha. Okay.
Trust me, we asked. But we will seriously, we'll get a cost to do that.
So and I'm just following up on a lot of the notes that just came up in public comment. So regarding speed bumps and the fact that I'm going to ask you for an update on the CDBG in a moment here, I just wanted to throw out there, I've always really liked the illusion speed bumps where it's just paint and it's painted in a way to make it appear to the driver like there's a speed bump and it slows people down. And I'd like to see us at least maybe consider that around the community center, since it's community center and there's children. Just because I know School Street is included in the scope at this time for the CDBG. So just wanted to throw that into the universe. But I don't have, it was a quiet month. I don't have a lot for committee reports or anything like that. I'm sure something will come to me when the meeting's over. Wes, if you want to go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We'll start with the CDBG road improvement project. The last discussions we had with CDBG, which is managed by HCD, is that we're going to get awarded the first portion of the grant in through this cycle that's funded under the 2022 funding that's out there. We will not need to wait for the 2023 NOPA to come out in June. Our consultant that we hired to help manage the grant once it's on there has asked them to include the secondary project, which is at the end of the list. It's only a $500,000 project in this award as well too. So we have the whole project funded under the same funding pot from the 2022. If that doesn't happen, that'll come later. We'll get those pieces done. Looking at it, we did a true up of when we originally did a cost estimate for that project back in 2019 to today, there's a huge deficit to make that project whole. However, we do have streets and roads monies that are set aside that has been earmarked by council, is ratified that those monies could be used for that type of use already. Staff would recommend we do that. And there's still a deficit of about $300,000, and staff, whenever we get ready to bring this forward, the design and everything else is likely going to recommend to the council that we make the project whole, get all the streets done, use a little bit of general fund money to make the project what it should be. I think we all agree the community deserves some of these road improvements at this point, and we've been waiting a long time to get there. So once we get the funding approvals and stuff, we have 90 days to have the documents bid ready. That's why we did all that investment for the surveys and everything else in advance. We fronted almost $90,000 for council's approval. So we'll be able to meet those benchmarks. So I'm not terribly optimistic about HCD at this point, but I'm hoping that maybe late summer that we'll actually have the project bid out and then be working on some of the road improvements at that time. Just as a reminder for everybody, this includes Forest Hill Street, Pleasant Street, School Street, and a portion of West Oak Street from Culver Street all the way up to Rising Sun that's in bad condition. The second phase project includes the intersection at West Oak Street and Culver and Pine Street all the way up to the top.
And I believe Depot Street was also included. Is that?
It is not.
It is not.
No, it's not in the scope of that.
Well, that's a bummer.
So that's it, unless somebody has questions on that one. And I wish I had a better up-to-date for you, Tom, other than the last one. We did, as staff, determine that the building, the Colfax Hotel, meets the historical standards. So the overall requirements for improvements has been greatly reduced, such as an elevator is not required. I was trying to connect with staff yesterday. Our building department's here Tuesdays and Thursdays to see where we're at. I'd asked around generally to the admin this week on Monday as to kind of where we're at. And after tomorrow, I'll have a better update and knowing where we're at. I suspect we're still waiting for them to resubmit the plan revisions from our comments based off of the criteria of the historical coverage on that building. And then we're just waiting for them to resubmit. I mean, I think it's fair to say if we don't see something in the next couple months that we probably should be prodding them a little further to get them to move forward. They have not done any of the side agreements necessary at this point with the city. They have additional parking requirements that they need to meet their criteria for the site. They need the acquisition of the front portion of the property, and the third agreement is completely up to them if they want to move forward with it. They have requests to amortize the sewer impact fees over a 5-year period, which is about $100,000 worth of cost. Staff's trying to work with them and assuming that we're all moving forward in good faith until we know they're not. They have done quite a bit of improvements on the exterior of the building. And I think we all agree we want that building functional here soon. It's just a matter of timing. I'll get you an answer, Tom, I promise.
All right.
That's all I have, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. We'll move to item 9, council business, the private development service fees.
So, Madam Mayor, I think this is the item that you requested come forward. Mick did a very comprehensive staff report to kind of introduce and some items for council to consider. If you do move forward with this, I think it's probably appropriate at this point to maybe have a discussion as to whether or not council wishes to pursue this type of effort. And if so, in what capacity? Do you want to bring it back as an ad hoc, or do you want to look at this holistically as a council as a whole? Or what's the best approach? Oh, is he online? Mick, do you have any additional comments you want to add to that? He did mention that I need to text him if we need him to participate right now. He's asked, he's got other commitments tonight.
Okay. Well, how does the council feel about going over this all at once? Or do you guys want to have a separate ad hoc committee for the purpose of digging into it in detail and then coming back to the recommendation? Yeah, I'm in favor as well of doing an ad hoc. Do we have anybody who'd like to be on that ad hoc? I'd like to be on it. All right.
Okay, for the purpose of establishing ad hoc and making that may.
I just heard a small child.
I think we would need to bring that back as an agenda item to formally establish that ad hoc. So we will be bringing that forward at the next meeting.
Okay.
Perfect.
That sounds good. Well, that was a quick item. Did we have any public comment on that item? Yes, Foxy.
He would be interested in working with creators. Every several years ago, we had that program. We had very good music that was full on. We were ready to help do that one perfect.
Okay.
And you get,
We can definitely follow up on that. Thank you. Just for the sake of everybody at home, Foxy McCleary had added that the Rainbow Music owner would like to work with the theater going forward. So we're going to make that connection. All right, now that we have otherwise concluded item 9A, unless oh, you do? Yeah, if you want to.
Yeah, just looking at it.
Not on my calendar.
Talk about snow, right? Like at Mint Creek or other town.
So basically, the original purpose of bringing this forward was we have several private roads that are technically outside of our jurisdiction for providing those services. And so in order for us to provide those services, we have to have service agreements with them. And so the intent is for us to do a deep dive and decide what kind of policy we can have in place to where if they are unable to provide services, unable to acquire services, whatever the case may be, to where they can then lean on the city to be able to provide those services to ensure public safety has access.
Okay, so like for instance, Mint Creek, are those
Yes.
our roads?
And that actually happened in this last storm, where they were unable to procure a contractor in order to do the snow plowing. And so at the last minute, we were able to come up with a service agreement with them, but it wasn't a formal process. And going forward, we'd like to make it a little bit cleaner.
Well, okay, yeah, because 20 years ago, I worked for the city and a resident came out and said, "What are you doing here plowing our roads?" And then another resident came to the next city council meeting going, "How come you're not plowing our roads?"
That's right.
Right.
That's on my road.
That happened. I can't even tell you how many times last year and then this year during the storms between different private roads where some private road owners didn't actually even know they had a private road association. So part of this process would be establishing that, making sure people understand that they're part of a private road association, And then making sure that we understand if they're expecting us to do it, if they're not expecting us to do it, if they have someone lined up, and if they have a failure to acquire proper services, it gives us the permission going forward to be able to make sure those services are provided so that, God forbid, there is a medical emergency or otherwise people aren't trapped in their homes because of lack of availability of contractors.
Okay. All right, thank you. Madam Mayor, Mick's texting me. Apparently he's having mic problems. He says, yes, you could do a service agreement, was his comment.
So ideally, what we'd like to do is we'd like to have an ordinance on the books going forward that makes it very clear that your failure to provide these necessary essential emergency services does constitute the ability for the city to come in at a set understood rate and provide those services on your behalf. Hopefully, we'll have an ad hoc committee come back with a recommendation, but that's the intent. All right, so with that, we're now at go to the order unless there's any further comments on 9A. Not seeing any. Sean, you got anything?
Yep.
Tim, you got anything?
This Saturday is, I said, yeah, instead of no. This Saturday is the Bear River Community Celebration Day. It's 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Bear River Day Use Area. It says, just come by and talk about what we want to see happen at the Bear River and just enjoy the day.
Okay. Tim?
There's nobody here from the museum or chamber, but before our next meeting, I think there's going to be the quarterly talk at the train museum. And once a quarter, they have different people with local history. And I think the talk this time is on the airplane that crashed, tried to go transcontinental and was repaired here in Colfax. And I think Tom Parnham was the one that built the memorial to that. Half of it, well.
I thought you were going to come in with a Kim joke and say he built the original plane.
No, I invented the internet, but I didn't build the plane. And the other thing I was going to say, Tom, I noticed that you have lost weight with your new lifestyle, and looks like you're down to 205 pounds. Yeah.
Kim, that might be the most inappropriate comment you've ever made in a council meeting. I'm sorry, Tom. You do look fantastic, though.
I was proud of that. And the last thing I wanted to mention was every Wednesday from 9 to 11, the back room with TJ's, people are welcome to discuss world events and solve them. And so everybody's welcome. Yeah.
What was the time?
9 to 11 a.m. every Wednesday morning in the back room. Just discuss world events and, have a cup of coffee and, express, chat. So it's a way to get people out and about.
Chess.
Yeah, there is chess. And so any of his peeps play a game of chess. So, but thank you.
Thank you. David, you got anything? Okay. I think the only other thing that I had tonight was we are in need of approving a further leave of absence for our Mayor Pro Tem. So with that being said, we, for the time being, will continue with Kim being our Mayor Pro Tem. At the next meeting that we have, though, and we might need to have a special meeting on this, we need to do a formal extension of that. But more importantly, we need to take a look at the committee assignment list, since now we're looking at another 6 weeks. And we need to formally make some alternate appointments to make sure that we do have coverage for everywhere that Marnie would normally be in seat. So can we get a special meeting on the books to try to get that done?
The first I would suggest is the alternates that are on her committees, if she's the primary, and maybe ask if they would be willing to do the primary position and set up a secondary alternate. We can circulate that conversation. And second, I think we have time, for the requirements to the number of meetings that a council member is required to attend in between. I think we still have time to address it at the next regular scheduled meeting
Oh, okay.
to do the extension. I don't think we need to call a special meeting for
Well,
it.
then for the sake of tonight, I just want to run down through this list and make sure we have coverage for these meetings. So, let's see here. For Air Pollution Control District, Marnie is normally my alternate for that. And I am not going to be able to attend tomorrow's meeting, which is actually a very lengthy meeting. Would anybody be able to potentially attend that in my stead? What's that? No, it's totally fine. So the short answer is the official meeting doesn't start until 2:30. But there is an all-day sort of workshop happening, so it could be from 8:30 to 4 p.m. So it just depends on the availability of anybody who can attend. Realistically, the meeting starts at 2:30, and that's the important part. I wish I could say that it was short, but
Which
air pollution.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It's usually a good
2 hours.
2 hours-ish, if not sometimes a little more. The director's report goes on long. Okay, if you can't, no worries, but if you can, what I'll do is I'll email Shannon and let her know. And then let's see here, what else do we have? Yes, that's at the domes. Okay, oh, okay, Kim, I'll send you the info. 2:30 at the domes, yep. Okay, and then Placer Regional Homeless Ad Hoc, I think Kim, you're already attending that, right?
I think I'm the alternate.
It's actually a it's a 2-person position. It's not like technically an alternate. But if you're able to attend that, I do have Marnie on that one, so I want to make sure we have coverage because that one's kind of hot. But that's one we should really keep our finger on the pulse. The Onkini board, it sounds like they have a meeting coming up in summer, so that's going to be a little more relevant if we still have to continue, but it might not be relevant right now. League of California Cities. Do we have any meetings coming up for that anytime soon?
Those meetings, I think, generally are at the, when they hold the events.
Okay.
This is the delegate for the jurisdiction that meets there, so it's once a year.
Got you. Okay, so that we'll just keep an eye on that. That's not necessarily coming up. We might need somebody for the youth commission, but I'm thinking what we're going to do is we're actually going to do that selection with the start of the new school year to keep it clean. So that probably won't come up as relevant. And then the skate park, we do need another person for the skate park. So I have Sean and Marnie on there right now, and we are planning to send something to the committee. So there needs to be a meeting. So does somebody want to be?
17th, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I think we'd already started setting up a meeting on the 17th, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah, 8 a.m. on the 17th.
8 a.m. on the 17th. Okay. Well, does somebody else want to step in on that one since that's short notice and we do need 2 council members for that meeting?
Yeah, if necessary, we can move it out.
Okay.
On there, it's just that.
I think the whole council has pretty passionate opinions on that. So really anybody who's available could probably plug in, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
17th.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we can go ahead and push that one out and
Okay,
then,
we'll arrange.
yeah.
We'll probably look at maybe the first part of May or something to
Okay.
make that happen.
We'll still need somebody at that point, but if
Yeah.
we can get a date established, maybe then we can pick. I think that'll pretty much have us covered for the time being, though. So that was all I had for good of the order. Wes, did you have anything?
Madam Mayor, I do not.
Okay. With that being said, unless there's any last final comments, I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting adjourned. Thank you, everybody.